Hello from me, Lazar. We continue with the next lesson of the HTML course, elements of the head part of an HTML document. We open the PDF file, and as we have already seen from the structure of the head document is a container in which contain elements that they point to service and technical information for document, title, description, search engine keywords, links, scripts. The main elements that used in it, in the order of recording, are the following: title element. This element is required for each HTML document and serves to set a title for the document. This title is written between the tags, the opening title and the closing title, placed immediately after the opening head tag. The title is used and visible in the following cases: in the tab bar of the browser, when the page is added to favorites, for search engines. The title is very important for the actual web page because it appears when searching in internet, with search engine, in the result generated by it. It should not be too short, just a word or two, but it shouldn't be more than 10 words either. It is recommended to be between 55 and 70 characters. Here is an example of such a title: Computer Lessons and Training in HTML and CSS, and here's what it looks like on the actual Google page. The next element, second point, the meta element. It serves to indicate service data, intended for browsers and search engines, which briefly describe what is contained in our document. The meta element is from the so-called empty elements, no closing tag. And here's an example with a few meta tags, which we will consider in the sequence. With the first attribute specifies the encoding, it's a new way, in HTML5. And these tags manage certain browser actions, also have content, and display certain information. Consider this line, for the author, so, we see that this is where the element consists of two attributes containing pairs. Name and content are the attributes, and consist of pairs, name equals value, name equals value. And all this means that the author is Lazarus, and that logically can be described more simply with a single attribute type of the type, author equals Lazarus. This is exactly what is done in HTML5 with this line that we set it above, meta char set equals UTF-8. Here's how it looked for comparison: this in the old version in HTML 4.1. As you can see, how much more things there are in this way. Actually, this way is also valid in HTML5, but there is no point in using it. Description of the most important meta tags. Those related to search engines are very important, and those related to SEO, search engine optimization. For example, the description is very important for indexing by search engines and should to contain the most important that is contained in the page, and it is visible to search engines. Here you see the real site. This is the description, these are the keywords. The name itself suggests the most important words, separated from each other by commas. The most important and relevant words are selected. In the past, they were very important to search engines, but lately they don't have the same meaning. Some analysts even consider them redundant. SEO is basically a very broad topic. In short, I will say this, that from how search engines index the site largely depends on the location on which it will appear in search engines. Every owner would like his site to shows in one of the first places, but this not such an easy task. There are even companies that deal specifically with SEO. Here and the rest of the meta tags, which we will look at, about the author, with name and keywords we have already looked at it. I will add that you can also write email instead of name, but I don't recommend it because the bots will bombard you with spam, that is, junk mail. To set the view, with attribute name equals viewport, which is new introduced in HTML5. It is used to control and optimize the site so that it is visible well on different screens, for example on tablets, on mobile devices. This is done by the first value in content, width equals device width, which specifies that the width of our page should be equal to the width of the device in which it opens. It also allows zoom control. This is done by the second value in content, initial scale equals 1.0, which forms a special scaling scale. At equals 1, no scaling, at equals 2 there is twice the scale, at equals 0.5 there is twice the scale. Refresh is used to refresh the page and redirect to another. Here, the value in content is the time in seconds, through which the web page will be refreshed. In the example we set 3 seconds. The base element is relatively rarely used and there may be cons to its use. So I don't particularly recommend it, but I have included it for completeness of exposition. It can only be used once per web page. It serves two main purposes. First, sets a base URL for all relative addresses in the web page. It is implemented through the href attribute. And secondly, it sets where, in which window to open all links, via the target attribute, which has two values, _blank, links open in a new window _self, default, links open in the same window. There are more values, but they are not supported in HTML5, so I won't dwell on them. Here is an example of the base tag. The style element defines the style of the given element on the page, its dimensions, color, frame, and so on. In fact, browsers have set style, default, for each element, but through the style tag we change the already set style of this element. The implementation in the style element in the HTML document has some peculiarities. So there are three ways to do it. Through the style tags in the head of the document. Through the style attribute of each tag in the body of the document. Via a linked external CSS file. Due to the importance of this topic, it will be considered in more detail and full in the next chapter. Now I will show only a simple example for using the style tag. For example, we take our first web page and we want to set the paragraphs, red text color and light blue background color. For this we write the following code, which should be put here, in the head, and this is what we will see in the browser. The link element we have already mentioned about him, and it is an empty element, it has no closing tag. It is used to create link between the document and external sources. This is how they are added, the external CSS files, like this. It has several attributes. Href that specifies the location of the external file. There are two options, can be specified absolute or relative internet address. At the relative address, when it is written only the file name, it means it is in the same directory. If the file is not found there, must be specified. For example, href equals css/style.css. Media specifies the type of devices for which the file is intended. In this case, screen means a computer screen. Rel required specifies the connection type between the current and linked document. Type specifies the type of the linked document. The script element is used to embedding and adding JavaScript code. There are two ways to do this, one through an external file. For example, the address of this file is specified via two attributes. Type specifies the type of the linked document. src, from source, written abbreviated, shows the location of the external file. The other option is through a code that is placed directly in the HTML document. It can be placed not only in the head, but also in the body of the document. Here's an example. The result is that on startup, in the paragraph with ID equals change. This is JavaScript, appears. The NaScript element is used together with JavaScript code and serves to display a message, in cases where the JavaScript code could not be executed. The reasons for this can be that the browser does not support JavaScript, or that the user has banned the use of scripts in the browser. When there are no such problems and the JavaScript code is executed, then the NaScript element is ignored and its content, message, not displayed on the screen. In HTML 4.1, the NaScript element can be inserted only in the body of the document, and in HTML5 it can now be placed and in the head of the document. And at the end I will give an example with one web page in which we will see the examine tags. At the beginning is the title tag, then there are the various meta tags, including the base tag that sets the base address. Then I style the paragraph. Then here we link to an external file. Then we link to an external JavaScript file. We also include the NaScript tag. That's it for this tutorial. Best regards.